Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the entire HousingWire organization, I'd like to welcome you to the latest installment in HousingWire's webinar series. Today's program is Technology in Mortgage Origination. First and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity and thank our sponsor, KOFAX, who is bringing this to you free of charge. Personally, as a little background, we're very excited about this event for a number of reasons. Many of you as mortgage professionals certainly understand and realize the impact that not only technology, but of course business information services are having on the mortgage lending world, particularly in light of changes that have come in place as a result of Dodd-Frank and the work that is taking place at CFPB. There's no question that it's becoming more important for lenders to have a better handle on their data and the role that technology is going to play in that. So with that in mind, we bring you what we think is going to be a very informative event. And what I'd like to do first is to take a moment and introduce each of our panelists and speakers. And this is in the order they will be speaking, just so you know. First, leading off for us today will be Chris Edgington, who is a Senior Industry Solutions Manager for KOFAX, who's going to be sort of setting the stage for us in terms of some of the work KOFAX does, what they're seeing in the marketplace, how this is relevant, of course, to lenders specifically. I am thrilled, actually, to have both Robin Auerbach and David Springer, the President, CEO, and Chief Operating Officer, respectively, from EdgeMac, one of the leading advisory firms that operate within the mortgage lending space. So thrilled to have them both on board as two residential subject matter experts. And then finally, but not least, of course, is Bill Galusha, who is Senior Product Marketing Manager for Kapow Software, which is a division of KOFAX. We'll be talking a little bit more about implementation. As a little background, as you folks will hear, the working relationship between KOFAX and EdgeMac is a very strong one. You'll be hearing from Robin and David in an example of some use cases where they've worked together. And one of the reasons why we chose to do this event was that after listening to the information that was provided to us, sort of understanding the impact that it's been having for their respective clients, we felt like this was certainly something that was worthy of sharing with our readers. So with that, I am thrilled to introduce our first speaker, who is Chris Edgington. Again, Chris is Senior Industry Solutions Marketing Manager for KOFAX, and I will hand the ball over to him. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Richard. I just want to introduce everybody to KOFAX, and thank you for joining us here in our webinar today. I hope you'll find it as informative and as fun as we actually had putting together. But just a couple quick slides to set the stage, as Richard mentioned, on who is KOFAX. As you'll see here, there's been a new sort of industry definition called smart process applications that Forrester has put out. There's been quite a bit of criteria in which to meet that new criteria in the industry, and you'll see some of those actually demonstrated today. And I do want to thank Robin and David for their participation and their use cases they're going to go through. But we really are trying to connect, ideally in the mortgage industry, really the borrower to the back-end systems of record and loan origination systems. We know that that's actually where all the pain is. We know that that's where all the frustration is and the cost in the organizations, and that's what we call the first mile of the first mile challenge, is connecting the borrower or the customer into your systems of record in such a way that makes it easy, informative, and simple all along the way. So that's really where sort of our vision for the industry is as a whole. And just to give us a little credibility here, some of the Forrester waves, both in multi-channel capture a couple years ago, smart process apps, as I just mentioned, and again in dynamic case management. So we've actually been in mortgage a long time. We typically are in the behind-the-scenes back office operations in large mortgage organizations, all the way down to the small consumer, community-based banks. So what we're really talking about is really coming up into the front end of the process, and I think we'll be able to demonstrate and show you some of that capability today. And again, I'm just going to set the stage a little bit for those in the lending industry. I don't mean to pour salt in the wound here, but as we've done a lot of research in the industry, this is kind of what lenders want. You know, lenders and borrowers, they want a process that's kind of simple and easy, but it's never that, and it hasn't been for that. So how do you remove the waste and the frustration in this process? How do you increase your pull-through rates? How do you increase quality and have some intuitive on-demand insight and process analytics and to what's going on so to ensure that you are in a compliant manner with all the regulations and the changing environments out there? How do you get your loan officer to sell more loans instead of actually dealing with paperwork and you know, filling out applications and being a data entry clerk in the front end? And how do you get more of all this data? How do you get it, you know, better organized and verified and validated? And you know, in my background and process excellence, there's been a term, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, and nothing's more true than really the loan origination process. So if you start with good data in the front of this and you get it all verified and all you know, good and well as it goes into the process, all your downstream processes actually see a huge impact. So as we kind of go through the mortgage process today, it is very manually intensive. It's expensive and very inefficient. And you can see some of these statistics here from the Mortgage Bankers Association and from Ellie Mae. And so, you know, I really term this as sort of the perfect storm for an operations group, that your costs are escalating and there's no end in sight. It keeps going up 20%, 15% a quarter. There's actually now an average loss on every loan that's originated. Years ago, there was lots of profit in this in the industry from originating loans. There's actually a stat that mortgage bankers came out that said that 54% of all the lenders in the industry in the last quarter weren't profitable. So something needs to change in the organization, and I think we might be able to share a way out. You know, and as I said, I think a lot of this comes from documents. It's a very document required or intensive sort of process. You know, and all of these delays, as you see here, with, you know, documents that can't be read for one reason or another. It's the facts of the facts, or it's just unlegible. It's just very unclear sort of you know, original document that was scanned in. You've got you know, NSFs on bank statements that aren't recognized on the front end. That's identified on the credit report without payments, like American Express. All of these things that gets to underwriting and then has to go back up to the front of the process to get the borrower to resolve, or a letter of an explanation written, adds a lot of frustration, it adds a lot of cost, it adds a lot of delays to the process. So we think there's finally time for a better way of handling this, and hopefully we'll be able to show you a little bit of that today. But I want to introduce Robin Orbach. She's the president and CEO of EdgeMac. They've been a customer of KOFAX for a couple of years now, and really their use case and how they use KOFAX. So Robin?
Thank you, Bill and Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to participate in today's seminar. Good afternoon, everyone. As Chris mentioned, my name is Robin Auerbach. I am the founder, president, and CEO of EdgeMac, and along with David Springer, our Chief Operating Officer, we're going to discuss the business case that led us to becoming a client of KOFAX in 2012. So first, a little background about EdgeMac. We were formed in 2008 to provide loan-level due diligence, document management, technology solutions to help our clients to manage the risk associated with residential mortgage assets, as well as identified opportunities to streamline processes, to identify other opportunities within a portfolio where they might, you know, improve pricing or something along those lines. And you know, our clients include kind of a host of characters: the banks, mortgage banks, investment banks, financial guarantors, investors, asset managers, and government entities. So from day one, our model has really been about getting to the data, making the transition from a paper file-based industry to an electronic or digital loan file has been both a blessing and a curse, and I'm sure that all of you have felt the same pain that we have in that process. And we knew early on that we needed to find ways to electronically organize loan files and extract the data that persists on those documents to create both internal and external efficiencies for our organization and our clients. Everything we do at EdgeMac that you see in this slide is reliant upon documents and data, not unlike a mortgage loan and a mortgage loan origination system. We just happen to be more of kind of an after the fact kind of vendor, but this is very relevant to those who are dealing with documents that come in at various stages in the mortgage loan origination process. Having a well-classified file and accurate data lays the groundwork for the rest of our downstream processes as it does for yours. So whether you're a mortgage company, a portfolio manager, an investor, servicer, or a due diligence firm, this is important to you. There are many areas that you do not have control over in today's lending environment that allow you to positively affect your bottom line and improve your quality. Compliance with new and changing regulatory requirements, as well as a refinance market that disappeared overnight, cutting your volumes in half or possibly more, have dramatically affected your business. Documentation and data, in my opinion, is one of the most impactful areas that you have to gain internal control over your processes and produce a positive bottom line result, as well as quality improvements to your organization. Many of the mortgage banking clients we speak with are struggling with this very issue, and how do I comply with all the new requirements? How do I produce a high quality product? And at the same time, how do I streamline my processes to reduce processing times and, most importantly, cut costs? If you struggle with these same issues, KOFAX or a provider such as ourselves who has invested in this technology, are solutions that you should be considering. The use case that led us to becoming a KOFAX client was a very large client of ours who asked us to provide document classification and data extraction services for approximately 13 million pages. That represented about 30,000 mortgage loan files. And additionally, the back end of that was, if this was a successful implementation and and the need arose, that there was approximately another possibly 300 million pages that we would need to process for them. The classified documents and extracted data were to be used to perform a review of data tapes. So to validate their accuracy, and so for many of you, that might look like a shipping scrub, right? Before you ship out your documentation on a loan sale. For those who have purchased assets and want to review a large population of loans and just do a data verification scrub against the data tape, this is really kind of the use case that we were working with. So lastly, the client specifically requested all the documents be searchable PDFs so that they would need to go through an OCR process, which this solution, as we built it out with KOFAX, did provide that. So that really gives you the basis for which we needed to solve for our client. And so now I'm going to hand this off to David Springer, who's our Chief Operating Officer at EdgeMac, and he's going to walk you through the project. David.
Great, good day. Thank you very much, Robin. And my job today is to dig a little bit into the nuts and bolts of the KOFAX implementation that we did at EdgeMac. And I want to start off with a few definitions, as sometimes these things tend to get a bit jargonish. We're going to talk about classification and indexing, and that is simply the act of taking a stream of pages from a mortgage loan file and determining which pages belong to which document. In other words, we look at it and say, hey, this 4 pages is a 1003, this is a 1008, this group of pages may be an appraisal or a credit report, etc. We're going to talk about data extraction, and data extraction is the act of, in an automated fashion using the KOFAX system, examining the documents and pulling out fields of data that have been previously specified. And the validation process happens when humans come along after the system and take a look and make sure that the system got it right. And when we talk about document images, there's two formats that are most common, and that's PDFs, which I think everybody's familiar with, and TIFF images, which are typically single page and a little bit different format. These are what we use to feed into KOFAX. At EdgeMac, we very seldom deal with paper. We occasionally scan things, but not in the case of this particular project. EdgeMac did not enter this project completely flat-footed. I've been in the document management and image-enabled workflow business for most of my career, dating back to the 1980s and FileNet, if anybody remembers them. And we have a proprietary indexing system developed at EdgeMac that works very well. What's missing from it is the automated recognition of document types and the automated extraction of data. It's a great system, but everything is done manually on the system, and we do key from image to gather data. So we went and acquired KOFAX, and we bought licenses initially for 13 million pages. KOFAX has a huge catalog of licenses, and for purposes of this discussion, we bought really three things. Basic capture license, which allows you to get the documents into the system either by scanning or bringing in TIFF images, as I mentioned. And then where the heavy lifting is done is in their KTM, KOFAX Transformation Module. And that's where most of your classification and data extraction happens. And then we also bought a module for PDF generation so that we could get those searchable documents out the other end of the system. And then one last definition, we talk about training. And training is the act of teaching the KOFAX system how to recognize things. So if I wanted to know what a 1003 is, I give it a couple hundred examples of typical 1003s that it's going to see. And the better I train it, the better recognition results I get on an automated basis. We engaged KOFAX Professional Services to assist us with the project. They assigned us a core team consisting of a project manager, a dedicated developer, and other part-time project participants from the various disciplines. You know, some parts of this project, particularly the data extraction from the appraisal, which we'll talk a little bit about, required KOFAX to bring in resources from their teams, which happened to be mostly in Europe. All of the technology infrastructure specifications and engineering was done by KOFAX. We followed their guidelines there to a T and relied on them, and we used a hosted solution for the placement of servers, storage, and databases. Okay. I'm having some difficulty advancing the slide. I'm going to keep going. There we go. Okay. Our goals in the project were to implement the solution in 60 days. It took a little bit longer, but this was really the requirement from our client so that we could begin unlocking the data in these documents. Within that 13 million pages, the population was about 32,000 mortgage loans files. This is a fairly large quantity for EdgeMac, given that we use a very granular indexing scheme. The files that we worked on tended to be, not atypical. These are files that have already been funded. They're legacy files. They date mostly from the mid-first decade of the 21st century. They tended to be 400 to 2,000 pages in size, and they included, in some cases, large volumes of servicing documents, as well as many duplicate documents. We set about the training process, and our initial goal was to train 155 of the most common document types. Now, we have over 450 indexes, but we chose to focus our efforts on the most common 155. And when we look at our results going forward, about 90% of the pages that we see in a file coming in are represented in that 155 document types. And just to speak to our granularity, we require that nothing gets categorized as miscellaneous. And of course, that dictates that you have a fair amount of granularity. And then on the data extraction side, we specified that over 500 fields of data be extracted from the documents. 166 of those fields were on the appraisal alone. Now, on virtually every document that we run through the system, we gather at least the date of the document, and many others we gather loan-specific data. And that can be anything from borrower's name to interest rates to credit scores, names of appraisers, information about comps on appraisal. It goes on and on. You know, we do it for two reasons. One is to enhance the name of the document. So if you open up an Adobe PDF that has bookmarked all the documents in that particular loan, you might find that you have half a dozen 1003s in the loan. Well, one of the things we do with the extracted data is to put meaningful information into the name of the document. So you obviously know it's a 1003, but we also put the date of the document in there. We put whether it's signed, unsigned, partially signed, and other small but very useful information that would allow an underwriter or anybody else auditing or examining the file to know very quickly which one is most meaningful to them. And then secondly, and probably most importantly, is we take all that data from the document, allows us to unlock it from the documents and use it in many of the processes that Robin described earlier. I'm going to take just a second to describe the workflow that we implemented with KOFAX. We feed it streams of TIFF images, hundreds of thousands of TIFF images, and it goes through a server-driven process to do the initial automated recognition of documents. So it's using all that training that we put into the system to recognize what the documents are and then put them out on a screen for a human to validate. The second step in the process is a human quality assurance process where they go through the results that KOFAX has come up with. If they find errors, they're able to correct those by merging pages, by splitting pages if the system has mistakenly put two documents together. And to name documents for which KOFAX may not have a clue because we didn't spend any time training that particular document. Once we're very sure that all the classification of the documents is correct, we feed it to our validation and data extraction modules. Again, the system goes out and looks through each and every one of the classified documents and uses the training that we've provided, locators and other relational information to discern where particular information is, extracts that from the system, and then presents it to a human operator to do validation. We have a team of people who then go through the results that KOFAX came up with and they take a look at what's happened. They make corrections as necessary, corrections, deletions, and with that two-step process, we're able to get north of 90% accuracy on the data extracted from the KOFAX system. After that, it goes back into the system. The system goes through and exports PDF, searchable PDF images, exports the data that has been extracted. In our case, that's into a SQL database. It can be sent just about anywhere you'd like it to. And the images themselves are then exported, and we're able to use the data in our downstream processes and the images in the same. Okay. Let's talk just a little bit about our project strategy. You know, we have a great information technology team at EdgeMac, but really didn't have any KOFAX expertise prior to the project. So we contracted with a highly skilled former FileNet project manager to interface between EdgeMac and the KOFAX professional services team and support our entire project life cycle. We have to say this was a terrific investment and one of the key success factors to the project. EdgeMac is not a huge company. We're right around 100 people. And one of the advantages of that is the EdgeMac management team was able to be directly involved in the day-to-day activities in the project, everything from the design of the indexing scheme to the specification of which fields get extracted, and quite a bit of involvement in testing. Important to the project's success also was the direct and unhindered access to those at EdgeMac who best understood the needs of our clients, subject matter experts. And that kind of goes without saying in any successful technology project. I want to touch for just a moment on testing. We used a very highly structured and repetitive testing process to continuously improve the rate of recognition and data extraction accuracy. We used formal testing scripts. We developed those and executed detailed tests repetitively. Those test results are recorded, compiled, and we subjected those to rigorous statistical analysis. You know, most technology projects, you got to figure out when you're done, when it's a success. This is a unique kind of project because you certainly have goals for implementation in terms of recognition percentages. But one of the things that's important to anybody considering doing this is that it's an iterative process and will continue long after the project has been implemented. And you need a really strong statistical model to measure your results. We do detailed reporting on the quality of our staff's work, and this is really fundamental to EdgeMac. And I just want to mention here that while KOFAX has its own embedded productivity and quality reports, EdgeMac has a very mature system of reporting on those things. So we chose not to use KOFAX's embedded reports, and we did not purchase either their advanced reporting or their much more recent business intelligence tool that they offered. We required, I want to back up a little bit on the infrastructure. We relied on KOFAX's sales engineering team for specifications for the servers, storage databases, etc. And during the course of the project, there were several iterations of this that caused us to expand the capacity and processing power. And we followed those recommendations to a T throughout the project. And then lastly, I want to mention that we did purchase a package some of you may be familiar with called the Mortgage Pack, which KOFAX offers. But we found that our schema had a great deal more granularity than that provided. And we found that the document recognition training was required even on some of the document types that were included within the Mortgage Pack. The results that we got from the project were generally good. I think it's important to note that this particular project involved a lot of older legacy mortgage loan time documents, and this causes, and you can expect a little bit lower recognition rates in both classification and extraction. Some of these documents are frankly horrible in quality. In fact, the poster child for this is the purchase agreement, which, as many of you know, is a document that gets faxed and refaxed and turned sideways, and you know it's even hard for a human to read and figure out what that is. It works much better with much cleaner current documents that haven't been, you know, copied and scanned a number of times over. We did encounter certain performance issues with KOFAX. That exists particularly on larger batches. We found that data extraction and validation work exceptionally well for us. Let's see here. Backing up just for a second, forgive me, back to the slow system performance. We did receive excellent support from KOFAX, tech support, and professional services, but haven't found any particularly good fix. When I talk about large batches, I'm talking about batches of 1,000 to 3,000 pages. A batch is equal to a loan, and a loan of 1,000 pages may not be that common. We run into them quite a bit in our business. One of the things that we found is that KOFAX works best in large volume, 32,000 loans as we consider a large volume, and not particularly time-sensitive projects in the sense that we have a very tight service level agreement. So it's a batch-oriented system. If we're working in a context where we have, you know, a half hour to 2 hours to receive something from a client, classify it, extract data, and turn it around and send it back to them, we prefer to use our own EdgeMac proprietary system. One of the things we found was that searchable PDFs are extremely useful. There's no additional human effort required. You just need to purchase the PDF license that KOFAX sells. And then with regard to the extracted data, we're finding that exceptionally useful in data scrubs, in driving that data into underwriting system and other systems. And one particularly useful application for that is to look for, at a very early stage in the process, look for inconsistencies in that data that may trigger exceptions if you're underwriting the file or re-underwriting or auditing the file. You know, one simple example would be is if we determine in the data that it's classified as a, you know, remember that these are older loans. Remember the days of stated income loans, and if it's classified as a stated income loan, yet we're identifying many income documents in the file. We can trigger that as a little bit of a warning flag. We can trigger such items as inconsistencies in credit scores and many other items with regard to inconsistencies in the data. And we have found that to be an exceptional, useful output from the system. So going forward, you know, it's been almost exactly 2 years since we began the project. We're still in the business of using KOFAX. The particular licenses that were bought by EdgeMac allow us to do outsourcing on the behalf of others, and we're using it in that way. We're going to continue to use KOFAX for projects that, as I mentioned, are, you know, are high volume, that don't need instant turnaround time. It allows us to produce highly organized, easy-to-use mortgage files on behalf of our clients and for ourselves, and to make terrific use of the data that we extract from the system. So with that, I'm going to turn it over. I believe at this point it is to Bill.
Actually, David, this is Chris Edgington again. I'll take it from here. Before I introduce Bill. But I really just wanted to give you guys a sort of an overview of what we think are the 4 pillars of technology that can really help mortgage origination process. So the first pillar is really about, you know, how do we capture this information? How do we get the borrower engaged? How do we get these documents in the best possible way? So easy, accurate data collection, and we think mobile capture is actually on the forefront of this. Being able to put that the mobile device that's actually everybody's carrying today, so we can actually engage them anywhere they want and ask them for documents like a driver's license they may have on them. They can get status. They can be part of the process. They can get you know, notifications and alerts when something's waiting on them. So we really think you know, having that ease of use and being able to bring all these documents into the process in an easy, transparent way is critical. The second one is really a pretty flexible workflow. You know, as we all know, the rules and regulations change in this process greatly and frequently. So being able to actually fill the gaps of your existing processes with a workflow, a very flexible workflow, being able to connect again those front end facing applications all the way to the back-end transactional systems. And then you can actually have some process visualization, business analytics that can actually then, you know, you can see what the process is from end to end. You can see where the bottlenecks are. You can see where process outliers are. It actually allow you to manage the process. And then more importantly, you actually then have to be able to do something with everything you've gotten to the process so far. So being able to integrate with your loan origination systems, being able to go out to third-party verification systems to validate data so that you have a higher quality is also vitally important. So we think those are really the 4 pillars that can really help mortgage originators today. I just wanted to spend a couple seconds on our platform, the TOTALAGILITY platform, and how this platform, which is the first really integrated platform that really brings a lot of these services together. So, you know, the mobility, capture, transformation services that David and Robin were talking about, all the way through analytics, BI, awareness, and then we're going to actually have Bill here in a second go through some of the data integration services that KOFAX actually offers. So it really is, as I said before, really connecting those systems of engagement all the way to the systems of record, and this is where we really get into what we call the first mile of mortgage and the challenges associated with it. So what we actually have done is taken this very robust integrated platform, as you can see here, with workflow, BI, integration, capture, and mobile, and overlaid it with a lot of the mortgage-specific rules, document sets, integrations, forms, workflows that are specific and pertinent to mortgage. So there is a layer on this that, this is where the smart process applications part of this comes in, is that you actually get, a use case, an out-of-the-box sort of solution just for mortgage. And I really just wanted to, thank Bill Galusha here for participating on our webinar. We're very excited to have Kapow Software join the KOFAX set of companies. And Bill, if you could take it from here, that'd be great.
Great. Thanks a lot, Chris, and thanks for having me on. As Chris mentioned, Kapow Software was recently acquired by KOFAX about 10 months ago, and really the discussion that I want to talk about for the next few minutes is really focusing on that fourth pillar that Chris mentioned, which is really around integration. So, and as mentioned earlier, the technology in terms of integrating with these systems and third-party services, external services that are often used within the mortgage origination process is critically important. So without tight integration between all these different systems and services, the mortgage process can quickly break down and really manual work can take over. And that's really the case with, a wide variety of different business processes, because when you really think about it, information drives a business, is connected to processes, is connected to the decisions that banks make, and therefore, really banks rely on accurate and verifiable data. So whether it's onboarding a new customer or performing some activity like monitoring external sites for changes in banking regulations and then being able to pull that information from these sites to link to specific company policies that are impacted. Or in other cases, we have investment banks using Kapow to go out and acquire financial and market data for the purpose of testing investment ideas and supporting investment debates. These are really just all the examples of how these processes and these activities that are happening have one thing in common, which is information is the center to the process and the decisions that are ultimately being made. But with that said, there's certainly a lot of challenges that still exist today with integrating information into our processes, like the mortgage process. And the reason being is that integrating data and content is still become increasingly complex and costly and difficult to implement and maintain over time for a number of reasons. Really, one of the first reasons is the growing variety and complexity of acquiring the data, both from not only internal systems, so your core banking systems, your content management systems, all these different variety of systems that you use internally, but also external sources. How you go about acquiring information, data, content from service providers that a bank might be using. And while traditional integration tools can address aspects of the problem, these challenges, a lot of these development tools, integration tools that are used in-house to kind of connect systems together are rather complex and costly to use to build the integration. And then you also have the issue in terms of the data on the web. So really, when you think about the proliferation of data on the web and the many cloud services that are available today that play an integral role into processes like mortgage, banks face a significant challenge in terms of how they connect everything together. And this really leads me to my second point, which is even if you have a core integration platform today that connects systems through APIs, chances are there are systems today, your legacy applications, your systems, cloud-based services, the emergence of SaaS-based applications that run in the cloud, where either the APIs that are traditionally used for developing integration are either extremely complex or don't exist at all. And that really creates barriers for IT in being able to deliver solutions quickly to business groups. And finally, the third challenge that we see is really the proliferation around cloud applications and services, which is fueling the need for what I'll call new integration flows, where processes and people rely on getting data from applications and services that reside in the public cloud or in a private cloud, and need to be connected to on-premise systems and processes. So we're really extending beyond the walls of a business, and that's one of the challenges that a lot of organizations are facing today, not just banks. So while integration is becoming more complex, given the nature of how and where data is acquired, there are ways to overcome these challenges, and that's what I want to speak to around KOFAX. So to kind of give you an example, and kind of based upon those challenges and what is possible, in this simple example, we're looking at what could be possible if you had an automated data-driven process for, say, driving refinance opportunities. At the present moment, a loan officer might look up the current loan profile, research the current loan rates, and then present the refinance opportunities back to the consumer. This present approach is certainly a very time-consuming, inefficient, and a relatively reactive process. So all the information required to take action on this particular activity is gathered manually. So I asked the question, so what if you could automate this process where a solution is used to acquire the internal data, so going out to internal systems to get the loan amount, the property address, the interest rate, and then use that information to query one or more external cloud verification services to determine the value of the property. So using that data from internal systems, the integration flow would automatically connect with a service like Zillow.com, acquire the value of that particular property based upon the address you're providing, as well as what have other homes sold in the past in that area, to basically evaluate whether or not this is a good refi opportunity. So by combining both internal and external data, we can then drive automated payment calculations, and then provide that information to the loan officers instantly, notifying them, here are the best refinance opportunities. These are the customers, the consumers that you should be reaching out to. So this is just a scenario, just one of many examples where if the right technology like KOFAX is used, can overcome not only the integrating of data from a wide variety of sources, both internal and external, but automating a lot of the manual tasks and activities that typically happen. So really, KOFAX is the integration and automation platform that fits right into the whole KOFAX portfolio of products and solutions that we offer. And to really describe what KOFAX does, it's an integration and automation platform that provides the fastest way to acquire information, so data and content, enhance and enrich that information, and then ultimately deliver it to your enterprise applications. So it addresses those challenges that I outlined by integrating data that was previously either unattainable, unusable, or really costly to integrate to drive productivity and insight into the decision-making process, like mortgage origination. So with KOFAX, banks today are able to integrate with third-party web data verification services into the lending process, to automate the data verification, eliminate all the human intervention that happens, as well as integrating with legacy banking systems. So if you're building modern applications and processes, there's data that is contained within legacy systems that isn't always easy to get at. So let's take just a quick look or a closer look at kind of the mortgage origination process and really where KOFAX would fit into providing the integration and automation part of the solution. So in the case of the mortgage process, there are certainly internal systems KOFAX connects to. So this could be line of business systems, could be your content management system, ERP, CRM systems, whatever systems you're using internally where you need to get at the data. And it connects through a wide array of systems using standard integration methods, so like web services, or using what we call synthetic APIs that fill the gap where APIs don't exist or where an API does not provide the full scope of functions really needed. And then on the other side, the right side really is about acquiring and integrating data that supports the mortgage process, where you need to verify information by using these different services in the cloud. And we have so with these sites, you have applications, you have portals, you have web verification services. So Kapow provides the ability to easily integrate and acquire data from these services, like a Data Verify or a LexisNexis, or use postal service. So if I'm taking an address and I want to verify the postal address, as an example. So integrating with these different types of services allows banks to really eliminate any manual work associated with, say, verifying employment status, address verification, proof of residence, legal verifications, all the different things, verification steps that go on as part of the mortgage process. And it happens earlier on too. So really, when you think about the verification process and going back to what was described around document capture, imagine being able to capture the documents, extract the data, and then use that information that's been taken from those documents early on in the process to really drive these verifications, rather than waiting till later on down the process to really make that happen. So this type of integration doesn't happen to have just websites that offer verifications, but we also have customers in banking that use Kapow to automate a wide range of activities I mentioned. So going out to websites and acquiring and enhancing data that's based upon financial and market research data, or if you're onboarding a new customer and you want to check monitor a sanction list on a public site like Treasury.gov or FBA Most Wanted, pulling that information into as part of the whole customer onboarding process is something that customers are using Kapow to do as well. So Kapow does provide a unique approach in that it doesn't take months to do this type of integration. Really, it's a matter of days or weeks in order to integrate and reach these hard-to-reach websites and applications. And really, at the end of the day, what banks get is the ability for Kapow to deliver accurate and verified data that is automatically integrated directly into your bank systems as well as your processes. So in the case of the mortgage process, Kapow can play a key part in the solution that KOFAX is delivering, where information captured from a document is then used by Kapow to drive the verification process. So, for example, a W-2 document that would be one of the documents that you would be capturing contains the employer name, the employer information, employee information, and that information can then be used along with other data that might have been extracted from other documents, as well as the initial loan application, to go out and verify income and employment. So we're taking that data, and that's what we're using as part of the integration flow to trigger, what type of verification we want to do, and what information do we need to provide to the service in order to get back the particular results that we're looking for. And in fact, we had a recent bank implement Kapow specifically to automate an area of their mortgage process that involved integrating with a third-party lending portal application. So where you have a third-party lending portal application where a consumer initiates the initial lending request for a loan, and that information needed to be integrated with an internal case management system that was used as part of the mortgage process for managing all the loan documents as a case file. The challenge that they faced was this portal application that ran in the cloud, like many applications up there, did not have an API for enabling them connectivity into their internal system. So the situation was you had these loan analysts and officers that would log into the portal app, manually copy the data out of these systems, and then copy that information directly into their internal systems. So it was extremely time-consuming, and they literally had several individuals that was that they did on a day-to-day basis. So now by using Kapow, it really carries out and automated this process. And really, when you look at it, it's automating the human taking out the human interactions that were taking place before, and basically extracting that data from that portal application and moving it into the internal case management system that they had deployed. So before I hand it back to Chris, let me just kind of wrap things up in terms of Kapow and the integration and automation platform. So really the best way to describe when you think about Kapow is that it's both an integration and automation platform. And what it makes Kapow unique in terms of integration is that its ability to reach these hard-to-reach web data sources. So sources like websites, portals, verification services that you might be using today, or SaaS applications if you're using other collaborative type SaaS applications as part of your banking processes. So being able to integrate with these data sources is not only extremely valuable in the case of the mortgage process, but really many other processes within a bank can benefit from this unique and valuable approach. Really, the second key point, and on a point I want to make, is just that it delivers automation. So the automation Kapow delivers works hand in hand with the integration aspect. So automating steps within a human-driven process so that humans don't have to perform these types of activities. Going back to the example I used with the one customer that deployed Kapow. So it eliminated a lot of those activities where you had individuals manually copying or retyping data from one system to the next. So this all leads to really allowing banks and businesses transform how they run their operations to ultimately impact and affect the decisions that are being made. And my final thought around Kapow and integration and automation is around the fast time to value. So everything I've talked about in terms of integration and automation, Kapow is delivered without any coding. And what that means is that it appeals to the business, given solutions can be built and delivered in a matter of days or weeks, as opposed to lengthy in-house development projects. So it also provides IT with a way of addressing some of these complex integration problems that maybe they can't solve with the traditional set of development tools they have. And at the end, both parties benefit. Business users get answers to the problems and the solutions that they require, and it benefits development from an IT perspective, being able to develop solutions to address the needs of their business groups. So at this point, I'd like to go hand it off to Chris and let him wrap things up.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I think we're really excited to have Kapow as part of the KOFAX set of companies. It just really completes the offering here, especially in the mortgage space for us. So just real quick, KOFAX has been doing mortgage processing for 15 plus years. We've got hundreds, if not thousands, of implementations. And as you guys deal with this tough operating environment, I would say it's almost an upside-down operating environment where your costs are escalating, your profits are going next to zero. There's very hard to manage any kind of volumes, so it's hard to scale any kind of operation with temps or human interaction. So, having to look at technology to help solve some of these problems, it's probably the way that most mortgage companies are looking to explore. I think mobile is actually one of the ground-changing sort of technologies in the mortgage space. So again, I just want to thank everybody for the time to attend the webinar. Hopefully they found it very informative and educational. And I think, Richard, for closing thoughts, it's back over to you.
Absolutely, thank you. Well, first, again, my thanks to everyone at KOFAX, not only for the sponsorship, but your participation today, and of course to all our speakers, Bill, Robin, David, and Chris. There actually were a couple questions that did come in, and Bill, I think this is probably best to direct to you. well, we still have a couple minutes under the 1 o'clock hour. One of which was actually a question around what types of data sources KOFAX can support. Can you talk to that?
Yes, and that's kind of the point I was making throughout the presentation, is that it can be internal systems. So you have your legacy banking systems, you have your content management system, you might have a CRM system, and then you have all these external, you call them systems, applications, verification services, that are provided, these cloud services that you can use. So we're really talking about virtually any source of data. And with KOFAX, it approaches the challenge around integration to using standard integration approaches. So using web services in some cases where that type of interface is available from an application or system, or in other cases using what we call synthetic APIs, which is a KOFAX technology that allows us to acquire and extract data from applications and websites that don't necessarily have an API where we can connect to. And that certainly is one of the challenges that we see a lot of organizations facing, not just in banking and mortgage, but there's a wide array of different processes that happen today where you're needing to extend and pull and validate information that is coming from external sources. So that's certainly something that KOFAX can solve as well.
Powerful stuff. Thanks, Bill. I appreciate you sharing that. So, well, as everyone can see from the final slide, a recording of this webinar will be available in the coming days on housingwire.com/webinars. So if you want to be able to share it with any of your compatriots maybe who registered but weren't able to attend today. And on behalf of all of us here at HousingWire, again, we appreciate and acknowledge the support of our sponsors, KOFAX, and thank you for your time, and wish everyone a blessed day.